Detective Miller and Agent Carter decided to follow Thomas Gray without alerting him. They watched his movements for days. He walked to work every evening at 7, always alone, carrying a small black bag. He stayed quiet, worked the night shift, and disappeared before sunrise. One night Miller followed him. After he left the gas station, Thomas took the long road through the woods. Instead of going home, he walked for almost 30 minutes through the cold mist. Finally, he reached a small cabin hidden behind tall trees with broken windows and an old rusted truck. Outside the place looked abandoned. Miller took photos and returned with a search warrant. The next morning, when they entered the cabin, the smell hit them. First, a mix of rot and chemicals inside. They found old ropes, plastic sheets, photographs of the victims, and a wall covered with newspaper clippings of missing girls from nearby towns. The air felt thick, like the house itself was alive. Miller walked to a small wooden table where he found a box. Inside were small personal items, rings, watches, and hairpins, trophies from every victim. Carter looked around and said, "This is his sanctuary. This is where he becomes who he really is." They searched the entire cabin, and then in the basement, they found something that froze their blood: a chair with metal restraints and stains on the floor, marks that told the story of pain and control. On the wall behind the chair were hand-drawn sketches of faces, each one crossed out except one. The newest face was a girl named Emily. She was alive. She had gone missing just 2 nights ago. Miller knew they were running out of time. He called for backup helicopters and search teams. The hunt for Thomas Gray had begun. The forest of Northvale was alive with flashing lights. Police cars lined the narrow dirt roads. Dogs barked. Search team shouted names through the cold night air. Detective Miller led the team into the woods, guided by faint footprints that disappeared into the mist. Agent Carter followed, holding the photo of Emily in his hand. She was only 22, a college student who vanished while walking home 3 nights ago. Time was slipping away. Every minute felt heavy. Miller called out to his team, "Spread out, stay in radio contact," he said. The forest was deep, full of echoes and unseen eyes. After almost an hour of searching, one officer found a trail of tire marks leading toward an old quarry, the same place Thomas Gray once worked years ago when he was a construction laborer. Miller and Carter reached the quarry. It was silent, except for the wind whistling through the rocks in the distance. They saw the faint glow of a small fire. They approached carefully, weapons drawn, and then they saw it: Thomas Gray, sitting beside the fire, his hands covered in dirt, staring at something on the ground. Beside him was a small cage. Inside it, Emily, her face pale but still breathing. Miller shouted, "Drop your hands now." But Thomas didn't move. He turned his head slowly. The days passed slowly in Northvale, and fear began to take shape. People stopped walking alone at night. Shops closed early. The police searched every corner, every road, every alley, but there was no clue. Then one cold morning, a fisherman found something floating near the bridge, a body wrapped in plastic drifting near the rocks. The police rushed to the scene, and the town gathered in shock. It was Anna, the missing girl, her skin pale, her hair tangled, and strange rope marks around her wrists. There was no sign of struggle, no blood, just silence. Detective Miller took charge of the case. He had worked in big cities before, but he had never seen a crime like this. He stood near the river, his breath misting in the air, and he felt that something much darker was coming. He visited the victim's home, looked at her photos, her books, her smile frozen in time. Her mother could barely speak. The only thing she said was, "Find him, please find who did this." Miller promised he would. He collected phone records, CCTV from nearby stores, vehicle logs, but the killer had left nothing, no trace, no fingerprint, no witness. It was as if a ghost had walked through the town and vanished in daylight. That night, Miller sat in his office staring at the evidence board, a single photo of Anna in the center connected with red strings to maps and locations. The sound of a ticking clock filled the room. Outside, snow began to fall, the streets empty, and somewhere out there the killer was watching again. 2 weeks after the discovery of Anna, the quiet of Northvale was broken once again by another call in the middle of the night. This time the body of a young woman was found behind an abandoned gas station at the edge of town. Her name was Rebecca. She worked at a local diner She was 26, and well known by everyone. The scene was almost identical to Anna. Plastic wrapping, rope mark, same pattern, same silence. Detective Miller arrived, and the moment he saw the scene, he knew it was the same killer. The same careful hands, the same cold precision. He looked around the area searching for any clue, any sign of movement. The air was thick with frost and fear. Local news reporters gathered behind the police tape whispering words like serial killer and manhunt. The sheriff asked Miller if he believed the two murders were connected. Miller nodded, his eyes tired but sharp. Yes, it's the same man, he said. And he's not done yet. By morning, every newspaper in the region carried the story: 2 women killed in Northvale, the killer still unknown. The fear spread beyond the town. Parents stopped letting their daughters walk home alone. People looked at each other with suspicion. Even friends began to doubt one another. Miller called the FBI for assistance. The Behavioral Analysis Unit sent Agent Carter, a quiet man who had spent years studying serial offenders. He walked into the Northvale police station with a small notebook and calm eyes. He asked for their files, the photos, the details of both victims. After hours of reading, he said softly, "He's organized." His eyes hollow, emotionless, he said in a calm voice, "She was never supposed to scream." He stood up, and before anyone could react, he ran into the darkness. Shots echoed through the night. The team chased him through the trees, the ground slippery, the air cold. Carter followed close behind, shouting his name. But Thomas moved like a shadow, fast, silent, unstoppable. The chase ended near the edge of the quarry, where he stood looking down at the dark water below. Miller pointed his gun. "Stop, it's over." Thomas looked back, smiled faintly, and whispered, "You can't stop what you don't understand." And he jumped. The water swallowed him whole, leaving only ripples in the cold moonlight. The next morning, the waters of the quarry were searched for hours. Divers went deep under the cold surface, but the body of Thomas Gray was never found. Some believed he had drowned, others said he escaped through the old tunnels that ran beneath the quarry. The case shook Northvale to its core. Weeks passed. The police recovered more evidence from his cabin: diaries filled with drawings and words that made no sense. One page simply said, "Silence is the purest sound." Over and over again, the investigation revealed Thomas had a troubled childhood. He grew up in the same town, in a house near the forest. His father was a drunk, and his mother disappeared when he was 12 years old. No one ever looked for her. His school record showed signs of abuse, isolation, and violence. As an adult, he drifted from job to job, always quiet, always unseen. Miller sat in his office reading those diaries, realizing that Thomas Gray had lived among them for years, hiding behind normal smiles and ordinary habits. The fear of Northvale never truly left, because the killer's body was never recovered. Agent Carter eventually closed the file, but in his final report he wrote one line that stayed with everyone: Thomas Gray was not hunting strangers, he was recreating his past, each victim a reflection of someone he lost and someone he blamed. When the documentary ended, the narrator's voice said, "Sometimes monsters don't come from the darkness, they grow in the same streets we walk every day, and that is what makes them invisible." The town of Northvale moved on, but every winter night, when fog rolls down the river, people still swear they can see a shadow standing near the old gas station, watching, waiting, silent as ever. He's organized, he's patient, and he's watching everything unfold. He lives here among them, hiding in plain sight. Miller knew the chase had begun. Days turned into nights, and the small town of Northvale drowned in silence. Everyone locked their doors. People whispered about the killer, but no one had seen his face. Detective Miller and Agent Carter spent endless nights studying the case files. They spread photographs, maps, and timelines across the table. Both victims were found near water. Both had the same rope mark, same method, same absence of struggle. Carter kept repeating, "He knows what he is doing. He takes his time, he studies them before he strikes." One night, Miller was staring at the evidence board when something caught his eye. In Anna's photo, a small reflection in her glasses, a faint blurry light pattern like car headlights. Carter enhanced the image and realized it was a gas station sign, the same one near where Rebecca worked, the same location the killer had passed both times. They checked the CCTV footage again, this time frame by frame, And there it was, a shadowy figure, tall, wearing a hooded jacket, walking behind Anna just minutes before she disappeared. The image was grainy, but distinct enough to make out his movements, controlled, careful, never looking at the camera. Miller froze when he saw it. The way the man walked, slow, deliberate, like he owned the silence. Carter leaned back and whispered, "He's confident. He's been doing this for years." The next morning, they followed the lead around the gas station, questioning every worker, every delivery man. One name came up repeatedly, a man named Thomas Gray, the night janitor, quiet, polite, and invisible. He had worked there for 6 years, always alone, always late shift. No one had ever seen where he lived. He didn't talk much, and when someone tried, he smiled but never answered personal questions. Miller felt the chill of recognition. This was the kind of man who watched from the shadows.